The Thing with Feathers, written and directed by Dylan Southern, adapted from the book by Max Porter. He also wrote the book that inspired the film Steve, so clearly I gotta check this guy out because I clearly love his expression and the way he articulates darkness. I'm gonna try to keep this video short, and I feel like I say that all the time, but for sure I'm gonna keep this one short because I want this to be more of a recommendation video than a full-fledged review, because I could already tell that this film is going to go unnoticed, and it looks like a very small indie film, and it looks like you could predict how the film's going to be probably based on the trailers and posters. But it's such a unique film, and I'm so curious to check out the book again because I wonder how all this is articulated, because this film seems like it has a budget, or they know how to use a budget, because though this is such an intimate, dark, gothic film, the visuals are quite striking, and there's a lot of visual effects that just seem like larger than life, even though this is clearly a small budget film. Now, to get into the plot. So this film is essentially about grief. It starts right after a funeral about a husband who just lost his wife, and he's left alone with his two little boys. They're like around 8 and 10 years old. He's a comic book writer and illustrator, and it's alluded that he has this dark gothic crow character, and that's pretty much all you know because the drawings are all over the walls. And essentially this character comes to life and represents grief, and grief is taunting and terrorizing this family the entire film. But I would not classify this as a strictly speaking horror film, because there's nothing quite horrific going on in terms of the genre of cinematic horror. Now, true horror explores these types of things, and true horror does not necessarily need to have tropes and all that to still be classified as horror, kind of like the film Presence. It's technically a horror film, but it's also very much not a horror film. And I would say the same thing. I would say more than anything, this film is just very gothic and very dark. And Grief, the voice, I did not look it up, I should have looked it up. His voice as Grief is insane, and I love the way Grief is portrayed. He's like taunting you. He's making fun of you. There's a lot of dark humor in this film, so you can't help but just laugh a little bit, but it's also so heartbreaking because you just feel like you can't make this a joke because the guy's grieving, and he's like, oh, you're grieving, you poor widower, you're such a cliche. There's a scene where Benedict's character is like, I wish I was dead, and he's like, oh, how original. And it's just, it's just such crazy visuals, and it's a 9-foot tall crow speaking to him. And it's such an insane, dark, beautiful film. And I love how the message of the film is that you have to accept grief. You have to accept it into your life, because when you lose someone, nothing will ever make it okay. And they say something like that in the film, that nothing will ever make this okay, but you need to be okay with living with grief. And they also say how there's a fine line between grief and despair. And to let yourself despair is when things can truly go wrong. And they refer to despair as a demon in this film. And I just thought it was just such an insane concept, and the film felt so much like a manga. It felt so much like a comic book. Obviously he took comic book inspiration because the main character himself is a comic book artist. And I just thought it was such an incredible film. And that's it. I'm gonna keep going. Just to wrap it up, I'll say that incredible visuals, like I already said, but specifically the cinematography and the lighting. The lighting is so moody, so stylized, and yet so realistic. It walks a fine line. And the kids are pretty good actors. Some scenes I was like, I don't buy you, but I think in the really emotional moments, they sold it. And the supporting cast was great as well. Benedict, incredible. Anyways, go check this film out. Highly, highly recommend it. It's quite unique. If I convince you to check it out, come back, let me know. I would love to know your thoughts. And thanks for watching.